Greetings everyone, my name is Sai, and as a proper, well-adjusted member of society, one of my absolute favorite pastimes is killing people. In a video game anyway. And one of the great things about video games is there are so many wonderful ways to go about doing that. From Mortal Kombat characters ripping heads off to Bayonetta disco dancing a giant dragon into existence, and everything else you could possibly imagine in between. And that's what I want to look at here today. So without any further ado, here are my top 10 weapons in video games. So you guys know about the Fat Man, right? No, before you ask, I'm not talking about myself in third person, don't even start. It's a gun in Fallout 3 that launches mini nukes. Well, meet the Fat Man's older brother, the experimental MIRV. The experimental MIRV fires 8 mini nukes at once in a shotgun-like scatter. They all do massive damage, killing basically anything in the blast radius. So then, why exactly is the experimental MIRV so low on the list? Well, 3 reasons. Number 1, ammo for the thing is incredibly scarce, so good luck firing it more than 5 times in your entire play session. Number 2, even if you do have sufficient ammo to fire the damn thing, it's not like there are hordes of enemies in Fallout 3, so its AoE is usually wasted. And combine those 2 problems with the fact that because the mini nukes go everywhere, you have the same chance of hitting your target as you do of blowing your own stupid ass up.
Tear 'em apart!
The experimental MIRV. It is pretty much useless, but that's not going to stop you from trying, is it? The grappling hook from Just Cause 2. Just Cause 2 stars the master of flipping off the concept of physics himself, Rico Rodriguez, being sent to a tropical dictatorship so he can blow shit up for the sake of democracy or something. I don't know, don't remember, and don't care. In reality, Just Cause 2 is one of the greatest sandbox games to ever be invented, both for its central focus on having a colossal game world, and emphasis on blowing that colossal game world to hell in a handbasket. The main tool for doing so is Rico's trademark grappling hook. Climbing a building? Done, grappling hook. Surviving a fall from the top of the map? Done, grappling hook. Swinging from rooftop to rooftop like Spider-Man? Well, you can't do that. I'm looking at you, Just Cause 3. But you can latch onto a plane in flight and hijack it by throwing its previous pilot out the window, which never stops being funny. Not only is it shit tons of fun, it also has a fair bit of combat potential, because you can latch the hook onto enemies to get closer to them, pull them off of high places, or grapple onto them and latch them onto something else, like for sake of example, a moving plane. But while amusing, it's still just a lot faster to use conventional guns to kill enemies 90% of the time, so the grappling hook makes the list more for its inherent entertainment value than for its effectiveness in a combat scenario. Still though, grabbing some random yahoo, attaching him to your car, and driving both it and him off a cliff into a fiery explosion will never not be fun. The Wabbajack from Skyrim. The Wabbajack makes its appearance on this list not necessarily for its destructive power, although it can certainly do quite a bit of that, but more for just how insanely fun it is. Given to the Dragonborn by Sheogorath, the Daedric Prince of Badness, for completing his quest, the Mind of Badness, when cast on a target, the Wabbajack will apply a completely random effect to them. This could be anything from a fireball to the face, to transforming them into a rabbit, to making them invisible, to just outright insta-killing them. The awesome thing about the Wabbajack is how it is at the same time completely OP and also absolutely awful, because it has an equal chance of being both. Depending on how the random number generator is feeling that day, your target might die instantly, or be transformed into a Dremora and be that much harder to kill. The element of randomness is what really makes the Wabbajack amazing. And if you don't believe me, just ask Ulfric Bunny Rabbit, the High King of Skyrim. At number 7 on the list, we have the Great Shield of Artorias from Dark Souls. I've put this at number 7 because it technically isn't a weapon as such, but under my definition of a weapon, i.e. something that assists you in killing something else, the Great Shield of Artorias is one of the most useful weapons out there. And hey, the best offense is a good defense, right? In Dark Souls, there are 2 primary methods of surviving encounters with bosses: constantly dodge rolling to avoid their attacks, or blocking their attacks with a shield. If you choose to use a shield, then every attack that hits you will deplete your stamina bar instead of your health bar. Stamina regenerates, but you only get health back when you drink one of your finite health potions, so ideally, you want to tank as much damage with your stamina as possible. And the stronger the shield you have, the less stamina that gets depleted with each hit. But the Great Shield of Artorias puts all other shields in this game to shame. You know, I swear this thing is made out of vibranium or something. The Great Shield of Artorias is on this list, both for how even the strongest attack in the game barely tickles it, and for its relative ease to obtain. I mean, okay, you still have to specifically level up your stats with it in mind to be able to use it, but compared to some of the other Great Shields, it's ridiculously easy to get, while still being able to deflect a punch from Odin with ease. The Great Shield of Artorias, the only reason I was ever able to beat Dark Souls. The knife from, well, lots of video games really, but let's go with Call of Duty specifically. The knife is an interesting case study, I think, into how video games are designed and the conflict between trying to keep things realistic and trying to keep things balanced for gameplay. On one hand, in real life you need to be stabbed multiple times with a knife to die, and even then it would be by blood loss, so you'd have a good while of bleeding and agony before you actually died. However, this would be awful in a video game, so it is generally a one-hit kill for the sake of gameplay balance. The reason I decided to focus on Call of Duty specifically with this segment is that despite not being a COD player myself, I have heard from various people that the knife is a staple of OP weapons in the franchise. For example, not only is the Call of Duty knife a one-hit kill, but when the player activates the melee button, the character will automatically lunge forward to get as close to the target as possible to ensure the knife hits, and the targeting itself is helped by the game's aim assist. But even though the lunge and aim assist were removed following Black Ops 2, the knife remains a one-hit kill to this day. And that's why we salute you, Call of Duty knife. You have empowered millions of 12-year-olds all across the planet to feel badass, and as such have successfully completed your mission. Well done. Number 5 is the SBC cannon from Serious Sam. So, it's a cannon that you carry with you, and fires cannonballs that one-hit kill everything in its path. Do I need to explain further? I mean, it fires cannonballs. Do you need anything else? No? Didn't think so. Moving on. The Keyblade from Kingdom Hearts. Yeah, this is one of those entries into the list that I feel I would have received endless hate mail on had I not included. Rabid fanbase aside though, I do still feel the Keyblade deserves a spot. First of all, it is basically the only thing that can effectively fight the Heartless and the Nobodies, which are the two major bad guys of the games. Second, Keyblades come in all shapes and sizes. Don't like the way the Kingdom Key looks, for example? Well, with countless variants, each sporting different styles and providing different buffs, you're bound to find at least one that appeals. Personally, I prefer the Oblivion Keyblade. I mean, just look at this thing. It is so cool! It's also the kind of weapon that's at the center of the story's universe, and I find that kind of thing to be fascinating. For example, in Kingdom Hearts 1, Sora isn't the main character of the story because he's amazing, but because he happens to have the Keyblade, and the Keyblade is amazing. The Kingdom Key, and Keyblades in general, are really more the main characters of the game than any of the humans, and I adore that kind of a setup. Everything in the Kingdom Hearts universe revolves around Keyblades, and you can't tell me that idea isn't awesome. Indeed, that is a theme we may well be revisiting before the end of the video. Hint, hint. At number 3, we have The Darkness from the appropriately named The Darkness 1 and 2. Although I will be specifically focusing on The Darkness 2, since that's the game I happen to prefer. Based off of a comic book series, the Darkness is the greatest force of evil in the universe, and one of the strongest supernatural forces in existence, with its only equal being the Angelus, its complete opposite, a being of pure light, and only better being God himself. The Darkness is one of the greatest killing machines in video game history. It imbues its host with godlike powers, most notably the 2 Darkness arms you can see above the player at all times, and they introduce one of the greatest mechanics I've ever seen in a video game, quad wielding. With quad wielding, you can fire with the dual-wielded pistols in your hands, while your Darkness arms slash at enemies, tearing them into 2 neat pieces. You can also have them perform bloody and brutal Mortal Kombat-esque executions to restore health and ammo, or you can grab environmental objects like poles to throw at enemies, grab enemies and throw them at enemies, grab car doors to act as a shield, and then throw the car door to slice enemies in half, and so much other murder variety that I don't have the time to list it all. This game makes you feel like a god, and oh man is it a blast to play. Seriously, if you ever get the opportunity to buy this game, you should heavily consider doing so. Oh man, is it so good. So, if The Darkness really is the ultimate killing machine, why is it only at number 3 on the list? Well, unfortunately, The Darkness has one very accessible weakness. You see, light of any kind will cause any creation of the Darkness to evaporate instantly, leaving you mostly blind and highly weakened. So yeah, that's kind of a kink in the whole unstoppable killing machine thing. At number 2 on the list, Frostmourne, the Lich King's cursed rune blade from World of Warcraft. Sigh, you might be saying. What the hell is this? Number 2 on your list is a stinking sword? Ah, fair point, but allow me to explain myself. So, why is Frostmourne on my list? Personal bias. Kidding, but really, why? Well, a lot of reasons. Not least of which being that name. Oh, that name. Frostmourne. It's the kind of word that glides smoothly out of your mouth, and still manages to sound threatening and badass. Second, it makes the perfect conduit for the Lich King to raise undead, which are then eternally bound to him, and serve as every beck and whim without question. Third, whenever someone is killed by Frostmourne, it will absorb that person's soul, imprisoning them within the blade itself, and transferring some of the soul's power to the wielder. Fourth, look at the design of that thing! It's a work of demonic beauty. As I said though, personal bias counts for a lot here. But Arthas and the Lich King were always my favorite WoW characters, and to give such an awesome character a sword this amazing, that just makes it even harder to keep it off my list. Frostmourne, one of the most powerful artifacts in the WoW universe, and without question, the coolest. You get it? Coolest? Like cold? Like it's ice, but never mind, moving on. The Monado from Xenoblade Chronicles. In the world of Xenoblade Chronicles, everything is made up of a substance called ether, and the Monado is a device that allows the wielder to manipulate ether to his will. So yeah, I think being able to control the very fabric of the universe is a pretty good starting point when explaining why it's the best weapon in video games. The second reason it is so ridiculously amazing is that it can predict the future by sensing all of the ether in the universe in an instant and calculating every possible position it will have in the future, and then passes the information to the wielder as visions. This allows the main character of Xenoblade Chronicles, Shulk, to be able to see the future and change it by acting accordingly. The third reason is that, like the Keyblade, it's the only thing capable of damaging the game's central bad guys, the Mechon. Everything else practically bounces off of them, but the Monado is capable of carving through them like butter. Fourth is that the Monado receives various upgrades throughout the game, and by the end of it, Shulk can practically walk up to God's door and hand his ass to him on a silver platter. Fifth, the Monado is also like the Keyblade, in that it is the central concept the world in which it resides in revolves around. If the Monado didn't exist, none of the story would have ever happened. I can't say much more without going into spoiler territory, but trust me, this is another case of the weapon being more of a main character than the person wielding it. So in conclusion, it has control over the most basic element of the universe, can predict and change the future, can easily kill otherwise impervious beings, continually gets better as it goes, and is the defining force of the universe. I think that qualifies it for most badass weapon status. So everyone, that was my top 10 weapons in video games list, and I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, remember to leave a like, and if you didn't, leave a dislike, because that means I didn't do my job properly. Also, what did you think of the list? Was there a weapon I just obviously forgot to put on? Do you think one of the weapons I did put on was not deserving of a spot? Or heck, maybe you just have a much better list in mind? If so, please leave that in the comments below, and I might consider a follow-up video one day. But anyways, that's it for me. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Later.